This week on Political Capital, standoff in Washington on extending the Bush tax cuts. Will this become election battleground, or is a compromise likely? We asked Pete Sessions, chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committee. And on the last word, come November 3, which Republican will be standing tall? Chairman Sessions is in our studio. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Chairman.
Glad to be here, Al.
Let's first talk about the tax cut fight. And I know your position, your entire caucus is we want to extend all the tax cuts. This is not a time to be raising tax cuts. But I want to ask you very specifically, if Democrats don't give you that option, you have to vote up or down on just extending the middle-class tax cuts and not the upper-tier tax cuts. Would you vote aye or nay?
Al, let's talk about that. The agenda that the Republicans have is about jobs and growing jobs in this country. If you leave out the investor and the person who brings capital to the table, you cannot grow the economy, and we will continue to have joblessness.
So you would vote nay if given the choice?
I cannot vote for and should not vote for a tax increase.
Okay. And do you think the bill will come to the floor before you vote? You do not?
I do not. I believe that enough people across this country see that the investor and the assault on business is happening, and that's exactly what that would be. We need to grow our economy.
Well, what will happen? Will there be a lame duck session where you have to vote on taxes then?
You know, I think what will happen is people are going to remember in November what has happened these last 19 months, and they need to have change that is about growing our economy. It's about jobs. It's looking forward. And I believe that people will come back with a renewed sense about what the American people want.
Well, let me ask you this, because Moody Analytics did a study that said tax cuts really aren't that big a deal to investment. Other things like the market matter more. In the Clinton years, where you had that higher tax rate, they created a lot more jobs, 10 times more jobs than during the Bush years when you had the lower rate. If tax cuts for the upper tier are so important, why did they do so much better in the 90s?
Let's take a look at that. First of all, we're in a competitive circumstance more than what we were back in the 90s.
Right.
Business is in a competitive mode. Tax rates do define competitive nature. And certainly I would think that anybody would remember the capital gains tax cuts in the 90s produced $550 billion worth of revenue for the government.
Let's talk about what would happen if Republicans win control of the Congress, which is your objective and has been for the last couple of years. Jim DeMint, the senator from South Carolina, talks about gridlock. Your colleague, Congressman Westmoreland of Georgia, has talked about threatening to shut down the government. Is it going to be all-out war?
You know, I love the words that come out. The facts of the case are I sit in Republican leadership. We're not going to shut down the government. We're going to work very carefully on an agenda that will be about growing jobs. We're going to work with the president, anybody that will work with us, including the brand new massive class of Republicans who will come in, who come with that as the agenda. We will be on the agenda where America is. They will speak very clearly that what we need are changes in Washington. We need to quit the spending, we need to quit the taxing, and we need to be responsible.
Let's talk specifics on that spending. Would you cut back on entitlements? Would you cut back on slated spending for Social Security and Medicare, as Paul Ryan, your colleague, proposes in his roadmap?
You know, his roadmap is 75 years out, Al.
Right, but they start sooner to cut back on Social Security.
Let's talk about what we need to do.
We
need jobs right now.
Right.
Without jobs, we've lost 3 million jobs. Without jobs, Social Security is dead. We've got to go and create an entrepreneurial spirit and an investor-friendly environment to where we move our economy forward. As former chairman of the board of a chamber in Dallas, Texas, we know how that happens. Let's work with business, not have a war against business. Let's go and ask business to participate and do the right things. Republicans will do that, and the American people are there.
And are cuts and entitlements on the table is what I'm asking.
You know what they are? Until we get jobs back, there's nothing more important until we get jobs.
So therefore, any addressing of entitlements should wait till the economy gets back to more jobs?
Addressing the entitlements means you've got to have a national dialogue. I've seen too much of this where the president and Speaker Pelosi go out and run their agenda, and the American people are opposed to it. We're going to get the American people behind it.
What spending will you cut then?
Well, I think it's real
Give me
simple.
specifics.
Well, first of all, 90% increase in 1 year was obnoxious. We can go about and streamline government. And first place we'd start is let's freeze all government hiring. Let's go back to a level and require the government to live within its budget. Let's do those things that
But you know, the hiring stuff, while maybe desirable, doesn't produce a whole lot of money. What kind of cuts?
It costs money.
What kind of cuts, though, would you make? What kind of real cuts would you make in spending?
Republicans see that what we've got to do is to not grow the size of government. 500,000 new government jobs, taking over financial services, taking over student loans, running all these private sector companies. It has taken an enormous toll, not only on the free enterprise system, but increased government hiring. We ought to get out of every single thing that the government is in, where the government owns it, move it to the free enterprise.
So would
you
you imagine that a Republican Congress would repeal A, the health care bill under Obama, and B, the financial regulatory bill? Repeal them.
We will repeal the health care bill.
How about financial reg?
You know what? Let's start with the most important thing that is a problem to every single consumer. It's raising the rates of insurance. It is causing business to go out of business, and it's putting a huge burden on every state. The state models, states are having to come up with billions of dollars just to be able to offer the services that they're required to do. We're going to focus on health care and the American people.
So financial reg will take a back seat.
Back seat.
Okay. Well, let me ask you about this election a little bit. Republicans are doing very well, and you've raised a lot of money, but Democrats still have, at last time I checked, $13 million more.
Money's not everything.
It's not. But are you going to take, how many loans, what size loan would you take out in the next 7 weeks in order to be more competitive?
Let's talk about this. There are some 80 seats that are very competitive across this country, and Republicans are doing very well. The American people are going to remember in November what has happened these last 19 months, and the Democrats are going to ask to be reelected to do the exact same thing they're doing. I will take out the money that it takes as necessary for us to win back the majority and some seats to spare.
That's maybe...
The American people will be there.
So it could be 10, 20, 30 million if need be.
Well, let's just, I don't know that that's necessary. Think back to Virginia. Think back to New Jersey. Think back to Massachusetts. The American people are for substantially altering and changing the way politics and government's done here in Washington. Too much taxing, too much spending. Republican Party is right in tune with the American people.
Congressman, you are from Dallas. Texans are straight shooters.
Yes,
we know that. You need 39 seats to win control of the House. How many will you win?
We're going to be in the mid-40s right now. That's exactly where we see where we can come in with a glide path. But remember, these other seats are in play, and we're going to watch and see exactly how Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats move their agenda forward. We've already seen the president say they're going to move forward with a tax increase for a huge number of investors. That will kill the economy. If they do that, you will see a bigger number than smaller.
Mid-40s is the floor then?
Mid-40s right now is where we're going to start.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman Sessions.